Yesterday, Iran published a list, not a list of military bases, not radar installations, not oil fields, naval vessels, or missile defense systems. Those have been targets since day one. Everybody knew those were coming. Yesterday's list was different. Yesterday's list had 6 names on it that have never appeared on any military target list in the history of modern warfare. 6 names that collectively represent more economic value than the GDP of most countries on Earth. 6 names that every person reading this right now has used today, probably before breakfast: Google, Microsoft, Nvidia, IBM, Oracle, Palantir. The IRGC, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the most powerful military force in the Middle East outside of the United States itself, published through its official Tasnim news agency a formal declaration that every office, every data center, every cloud infrastructure node these companies operate across Israel, and the Gulf is now, in their exact published words, Iran's new targets. And then they did something that no military force in modern history has ever done before issuing a strike campaign. They warned civilians to leave, not to evacuate a neighborhood near a missile base, not to stay away from a military airport or a naval facility. They told the civilian public of the Gulf, the people who live and work in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Manama, and Tel Aviv, to not stand within 1 kilometer of any US or Israeli-linked bank. 1 kilometer from a bank, because the bank might be hit by a missile. That warning was issued yesterday, March 11th, 2026, day 12 of a war that was supposed to be a short-term excursion. Today is day 13. And the question every government, every investor, every tech executive, and every ordinary person with money in a Gulf bank account is asking this morning is the same question. Is this real? Here's how you answer that question. You look at what Iran already did. Not what it threatened, not what it announced, not what an IRGC spokesperson said in a press release, what it actually did. Because the threat published yesterday is not the first chapter of this story, it is chapter 2. And chapter 1 already happened 11 days ago, on the very first morning of this war. On March 1st, 2026, while the world was still processing the news that Khamenei was dead and the Middle East was on fire, Iran fired drones at a data center. Not a military facility, a data center. 3 Amazon Web Services facilities located in the UAE and Bahrain, the cloud computing backbone for banking, payments, delivery platforms, and enterprise software across the entire Gulf region. 2 of the UAE facilities were directly struck. One in Bahrain was damaged by a nearby explosion. AWS confirmed structural damage, disrupted power delivery, fire suppression systems activating inside server rooms, flooding equipment with water to stop the blaze. Amazon told its customers, expect recovery to be prolonged, given the nature of the physical damage involved. Within hours, Careem, the Gulf's largest ride-sharing and delivery app used by tens of millions of people every day, went offline. Payment processors. HubPay and Elan reported outages. Emirates NBD, First Abu Dhabi Bank, and Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank all reported service disruptions. Enterprise software across the region lost connectivity. Investing apps, delivery trackers, digital wallets, all of it suddenly dark. Because a drone had set fire to the building where the servers lived. The Uptime Institute, the global authority on data center resilience and infrastructure security, confirmed what had happened with a single sentence that nobody in Silicon Valley, nobody in the Pentagon, and nobody in the Gulf's trillion-dollar investment community wanted to read, "This was the first confirmed military attack on a hyperscale cloud provider in the history of warfare." Nothing like it had ever happened before. Iran did it on day 1, before the smoke cleared over Tehran, before the first casualty figures were published, before oil crossed $100 a barrel, before the Strait of Hormuz closed. Iran looked at the American economy, identified its most modern, most critical, most globally connected infrastructure, and hit it on the opening morning of the war. That was the proof of concept. Yesterday's list, Google, Microsoft, Nvidia, IBM, Oracle, Palantir, is the expansion of what was proven possible on day 1. And to understand why what comes next is not just a military story or a technology story, but potentially the most consequential economic event of this decade, you need to understand one thing that the architects of this war never modeled, never calculated, and apparently never asked. What do these 6 companies actually mean to the United States military? Because the answer is not what most people think. And Iran knew the answer before Washington ever launched the first airstrike. Google, Microsoft, Nvidia, IBM, Oracle, and Palantir are not simply technology companies. They are not just consumer brands or stock market darlings, or the companies whose apps fill your phone screen. In 2026, they are the operational infrastructure of American military power, and that is precisely why Iran named them. Microsoft Azure holds the Pentagon's classified cloud computing contracts, multi-billion-dollar agreements that make Microsoft servers the digital backbone of U.S. military communications, logistics, and intelligence processing. When an American general needs to coordinate air operations across 6 countries simultaneously, The computing infrastructure running underneath that coordination is, in significant part, Microsoft's. Google Cloud has active defense contracts that its own employees protested for years, contracts providing AI capabilities to military intelligence operations. Palantir did not become a $60 billion company by selling software to hospitals. It built the data analytics architecture that U.S. Special Operations Forces use for targeting, the system that takes raw intelligence from satellites, signals intercepts, and field reports and converts it into strike coordinates. Nvidia's chips do not just run gaming graphics cards and consumer AI assistants. They power the artificial intelligence systems processing satellite imagery in real time over Iranian airspace right now, identifying missile launchers, tracking vehicle movements, and generating the target lists that American and Israeli aircraft are using to select their next strike. IBM provides enterprise infrastructure to U.S. intelligence agencies that predates the modern cloud era and runs some of the most sensitive government computing operations on Earth. Oracle hosts classified U.S. government data under contracts that make it one of the most strategically embedded commercial companies in the American national security architecture. Iran's argument, published explicitly through Tasnim, is that these are not neutral civilian businesses sheltering behind commercial activity. They are the companies whose technology is enabling the airstrikes that have killed more than 300 Iranian civilians, struck 10 medical centers, bombed a girls' school in Manab, killing over 150 children, and reduced entire neighborhoods of Tehran to rubble. Iran is arguing, and international legal scholars will debate this for years, that companies whose products directly power military targeting have forfeited their status as protected civilian actors. Now, look at where these companies have built their Middle East presence, because geography tells you everything about the scale of what is at stake. Google's Middle East headquarters is in Dubai, not a small liaison office, but a major regional operation sitting inside one of the most recognizable commercial districts in the world. Microsoft maintains its largest regional presence in Abu Dhabi, where it committed $3 billion in data center investment in 2024 alone. Oracle has been aggressively building Gulf infrastructure, as the region positions itself as the AI capital of the emerging world. Nvidia has deep partnerships with UAE sovereign wealth funds and government AI initiatives. IBM operates across the Gulf, providing enterprise technology to governments and financial institutions. All of it, every server, every office, every fiber connection, was built on a single foundational assumption that was formalized into official U.S. policy just 6 weeks before this war started. In January 2026, the United States announced the Pax Silica initiative, a formal partnership with the UAE and Qatar designed to anchor American AI chips and cloud infrastructure in the Gulf, specifically to prevent that technology from flowing toward China. The security frameworks built around that initiative were sophisticated and expensive. They covered export controls, chip tracking, political alignment agreements, and technology transfer restrictions. They were designed to keep advanced American semiconductors out of Chinese hands. Not one word of the Pax Silica security architecture contemplated Iranian drones. Not one contingency plan addressed what happens when the buildings themselves become military targets. 11 days ago, Iranian drones set an Amazon server farm on fire in the UAE. Yesterday, the IRGC published a formal list naming 5 more American tech giants as its next targets. The entire Pax Silica assumption, the trillion-dollar strategic foundation of American technology dominance in the world's most important energy region, is now being stress-tested against the reality that a country America is actively bombing has decided to shoot back at the buildings where the future of American AI lives. The financial consequences are already cascading in ways the market has not yet fully priced. Goldman Sachs analysts told Bloomberg this week that investor models have treated the AWS attacks as a contained, isolated incident. One data center, temporary outage, workload migrated to other regions, services restored within days. That containment assumption rests on one condition, that the attacks remain isolated. The IRGC's published list from yesterday is a formal declaration that the assumption is wrong. This is not isolated, this is a campaign. And a campaign against Google's Dubai headquarters, Microsoft's Abu Dhabi campus, and Oracle's Gulf operations, executed with the same drone accuracy that took down Kareem. And 3 UAE banking apps on day 1 will not be absorbed by rerouting traffic to Frankfurt servers. It will be absorbed by stock markets, by pension funds, by every technology investor on Earth who wakes up tomorrow and realizes that the data center their money is sitting inside just appeared on an Iranian military target list. And the US Navy cannot protect it. Here's the question that nobody in Washington is answering publicly, but that every CEO on that IRGC list asked their security team yesterday morning. Can the United States military protect a Google office in Dubai? Not rhetorically, specifically, practically. Right now, on day 13 of a war where American interceptor stockpiles are being replenished from South Korean storage facilities, where the U.S. Navy has acknowledged it cannot guarantee safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz, where 3 Amazon data centers are still in recovery from drone strikes 11 days ago? Can America defend a commercial tech building in the UAE against the same drones that already proved they could reach and destroy civilian infrastructure on day one of this war? The honest answer is not reliably, not without cost, and not indefinitely. The asymmetry here is brutal. As one infrastructure security expert told Rest of World this week, it is cheaper to attack than to defend. Protecting a data center against a sustained Iranian drone campaign requires layered air defense systems, Patriot batteries, radar coverage, interceptor missiles, the same systems that are currently depleted across the entire Middle East theater from 13 days of continuous combat operations. The cost of defending a single data center campus approaches the cost of building a new one, and Iran can send another drone for approximately the cost of a used car. This is the economic warfare logic that the architects of Operation Epic Fury never modeled. Trump's team planned for a military operation: degrade Iran's missile capabilities, eliminate its nuclear infrastructure, signal overwhelming American superiority. They expected Iran to fight back militarily and absorb losses until the costs became unbearable. What they did not expect was that Iran would open a simultaneous front against the commercial and technological infrastructure of the American economy itself, one where every defensive move costs more than the offensive one, and where the attacker does not need to destroy the target to win. It only needs to make the target dangerous to be near. The $6 trillion in global equity market value wiped out since February 28th reflects oil prices, energy supply shock, and generalized war risk. It does not yet reflect the specific scenario the IRGC published yesterday. If Iran follows through, if Google's Dubai headquarters or Microsoft's Abu Dhabi campus sustains the same drone strike that took down Amazon's UAE availability zones, the market response will not be a gradual repricing. It will be a violent, rapid reassessment of every tech company's Middle East exposure, every Gulf state's investment credibility, and every assumption built into the Pax Silica framework that American and Gulf leaders spent years constructing. Microsoft's stock does not need to be hit by a missile to fall. It needs its investors to open their phones, read that its Abu Dhabi data center is on an active Iranian target list, and decide that the risk-adjusted return on Gulf exposure no longer makes sense, that repricing happens in milliseconds on algorithmic trading systems. The damage arrives before the drone does. And running underneath all of this is a geopolitical message that Iran is broadcasting simultaneously to every government in the world that is watching this war from outside the conflict. The Strait of Hormuz is closed to everyone except Chinese-flagged vessels and Muslim-owned shipping. The IRGC technology target list names American companies. Chinese companies, Huawei, Alibaba Cloud, ByteDance, all of which have significant Gulf presence, do not appear on it. Iran is telling every government, every sovereign wealth fund, every tech executive evaluating their next data center investment, American infrastructure in this region is a military target. Chinese infrastructure is not. Choose accordingly. That message is landing. Gulf state governments that spent the last decade carefully balancing between Washington and Beijing, attracting both American AI investment and Chinese technology partnerships, are now watching the American half of that balance sheet catch fire in real time while the Chinese half passes through the Strait of Hormuz without interference. No official statement is needed. The geometry speaks for itself. Trump called this war a short-term excursion. Israeli ministers said regime change could take a year. The U.S. military asked for 4 to 6 weeks to achieve objectives that have no military finish line. The IRGC's underground command network, 31 hardened facilities buried beyond the penetration depth of conventional weapons, is still operational after 13 days of the most intensive American bombing since 2003. Iran's factories are running double shifts, replacing weapons faster than airstrikes destroy them. And now, on day 13, the war has reached into the server rooms of the companies that run the American economy and put their addresses on a published hit list. The Amazon fire suppression systems activated 11 days ago to save servers from Iranian drone damage. The fires went out. The recovery took days. Yesterday, the IRGC named Google, Microsoft, Nvidia, IBM, Oracle, and Palantir. Today is day 13. And somewhere in Dubai right now, in a tower that is very easy to find on a map, Google's Middle East headquarters is open for business, with its address on a list that was published yesterday by the people who already proved, 11 days ago, that they know how to find a building and how to hit it. The question is not whether they can. They already showed us they can. The question is when.